You want to know the secret to never letting anyone bother you? It's simple. Stop giving them free rent in your head. People will say things, do things, throw their little jabs and try to pull you into their storm. But you stay in your calm. You don't match their chaos. You don't let their words become your reality. The moment you start reacting to every insult, every tone, every look, you hand them the keys to your peace. And once they've got that, they'll drive you anywhere they want. No. You take the keys back. You decide who gets access to your emotion. You decide who earns a seat at your table, and most don't. Because here's the truth. Being unbothered isn't about ignoring people. It's about knowing exactly who you are so no one can shake it. You want to master emotional ownership? Then you've got to understand one thing. Your emotions are your property, yours. Not your parents, not your friends, not your enemies, not your coworkers, and definitely not the random stranger who cuts you off in traffic. The moment you let someone else dictate how you feel, you've handed them the remote control to your life. And the scary part, most people don't even realize they've done it. They go through their day reacting like a pinball bounced around by whatever happens to hit them next. Somebody makes a sarcastic comment, boom, they're offended. Somebody ignores their message, bang, they feel disrespected. Somebody looks at them sideways, crash, they spiral into overthinking. And all the while they've convinced themselves that it's the other person's fault. No, that's the lie. The truth? Nobody can make you feel anything without your permission. They can trigger you, sure, they can poke you, they can press your buttons, but those buttons only work if you've wired them up for someone else to use. Emotional ownership is cutting the wire. It's knowing that whatever they say, whatever they do, you get the final call. You're the gatekeeper. You decide what gets in and what bounces off. Think about it like this: if someone walked into your house uninvited, started rearranging your furniture and spray-painted insults on your walls, you wouldn't just stand there, would you? You'd throw them out. You'd protect your space. But when it comes to our emotions, so many people just leave the door wide open and let anyone walk in, mess things up and leave chaos behind. Why? Because they don't see their emotions as something they own. They think they're at the mercy of whatever happens. Here's the shift. You're not a hostage to circumstances. You're the landlord. And being the landlord means you choose who stays, who goes, and who never gets through the door in the first place. Someone tries to dump negativity on you. You don't have to keep it. Just because they handed it to you doesn't mean you have to carry it. You can literally say no thanks and move on. And yeah, this takes practice. Because the world is full of people who thrive on reaction. They live for the drama, the argument, the push. They feel powerful when they know they can get under your skin. But the moment you stop giving them that hit of satisfaction, they lose interest. They move on. You've taken away their favorite game. Owning your emotions is also about calling yourself out. It's about catching the moments you start to blame others for how you feel, and asking, wait a second, am I letting them control me right now? That question alone is like flipping a light switch. It reminds you that you always have another option. You can step back, you can breathe, you can decide that their words are just noise. And let's be real, most of the things that get under your skin won't even matter in a week. Half the time the person who said or did something isn't even thinking about it anymore, but you're sitting there replaying it in your head like it's breaking news. That's like drinking poison and expecting them to get sick. Doesn't make sense, right? The day you take full ownership of your emotions is the day you become untouchable. Because when you stop handing out free access to your feelings, people can't drag you down unless you let them, and you won't. You'll learn to respond instead of react, to choose calm over chaos, and to keep your peace no matter what's swirling around you. That's the secret. Not changing the world, but changing the way you hold yourself inside. Most people crumble because they can't tell the difference between a fact and an opinion. Someone throws a careless comment their way and suddenly it's gospel truth in their mind. They hear you're not good enough. And it's like the words tattoo themselves on their skin. But here's the reality: you're not defined by someone else's mouth. What comes out of them says more about them than it ever will about you. Their opinion is not your truth. Their judgment is not your identity. Think about it. If I told you the sky was green, would it suddenly turn green? You'd laugh it off because you know better. Yet when someone questions your value or your capability, you take it personally as if they've just delivered some universal fact. Why? Because deep down you've given too much weight to voices that haven't earned it, and that's dangerous. The wrong voice in your ear can derail your focus, shake your confidence, and rewrite the story you tell yourself. The key is to build a filter. Every word you hear about yourself passes through one question. Is this fact or is this opinion? Facts can help you grow. Opinion, you can choose to toss them in the trash where they belong. Someone says you made a mistake. Fact: if it's true, learn from it. Someone says you'll never succeed. Opinion based on their fears, their limits, not you. Here's the thing. Most opinions about you are nothing more than projections. People carry their own insecurities, failures and frustrations like heavy backpacks. And when they see you, they dump some of that weight onto you. They tell you you're not ready because they weren't ready when it was their turn. They tell you to slow down because they gave up when the climb got steep. They tell you to be realistic because they settled for less. Their words aren't mirrors, they're shadows. And shadows don't define the shape, they just distort it. When you start separating fact from opinion, you stop getting tossed around like a leaf in the wind. Someone can call you lazy, and instead of getting defensive, you ask yourself, is that am I actually slacking, or are they just annoyed that I'm not doing things their way? If it's true, adjust. If it's not, move on. You don't need to wage war on every wrong opinion. Silence is often the loudest response you can give, and don't mistake this for arrogance. It's not about thinking you're above feedback, it's about knowing which feedback is worth your time. You can't grow if you treat every opinion as a personal attack, and you can't stay sane if you treat every opinion as truth. The balance is in discernment, hearing everything, believing only what's proven, and living from your own center. Some people will never see you for who you are. They'll only see you through the lens of their own bias. That's fine. You weren't put here to convince you were put here to live your truth, and the people meant for you will recognize it, without you twisting yourself into knots to prove it. Here's what happens when you make this shift. You become harder to rattle. The noise doesn't stick to you anymore. You hear criticism and you evaluate it instead of absorbing it. You hear praise and you stay grounded instead of getting drunk on approval. You stop chasing validation because you already know the difference between what's real and what's just someone's passing thought. And that's where real confidence lives, in knowing that the world will always have something to say, but you'll always have the final word. The only opinions that matter are the ones that help you grow or align with your values. The rest, they're just background chatter. The faster you learn to tune it out, the faster you'll move toward the life you want, free from the weight of words that were never meant to define you. Most people get torn apart inside because they never learned how to separate what's real from what's just noise. Someone throws a careless sentence at them and suddenly it becomes a label they carry around like it's carved in stone. They hear you're not smart enough, you're too much, you'll never make it, and without even realizing it, they start wearing those words like a name tag. But here's the truth. Someone's opinion of you isn't the truth about you. It's their version from their lens, with their baggage. And if you start treating every opinion as fact, you're giving away the blueprint of your life to people who don't even know how to build their own. Think about it. If I told you that the ocean was made of soda, would you panic and stop swimming? Of course not. You'd laugh because you know it's ridiculous. Yet when people tell you things about yourself that are just as untrue, you let it sting. You replay it. You let it change how you walk into a room. Why? Because deep down you haven't drawn that hard line between what is and what is just someone talking. This is why you need a filter, one that catches every single thing people say about you and forces it through a test. Is it a fact, or is it just their opinion? Facts can teach you. Opinions you can throw away. If someone says you missed the deadline and it's true, that's a fact. Fix it, own it, learn from it. But if someone says you're unreliable, that's not a fact. That's them judging your whole character based on one moment, through their perspective. That's an opinion, and you decide whether or not to let it land. Here's what most people don't see. Opinions are often projections. People talk from their own fear, their own regrets, their own limits. They might tell you you're not ready because they weren't ready when they had the same chance. They might tell you to play it safe because they played it safe and convinced themselves it was the smart move. They might tell you to slow down not because you need to, but because watching you go faster makes them uncomfortable. Their words are about them, not. The moment you start living by this, the game changes. You stop reacting to every little jab like it's an attack you have to defend. Someone calls you selfish. You don't jump to prove them wrong. You ask yourself, is there truth here? If yes, adjust. If no, let it slide. You don't have to take every fight someone offers you. The stronger you get at this, the quieter your mind becomes, because you're no longer letting every outside voice echo inside your head. And don't twist this. This isn't about being arrogant or shutting your ears to advice. It's about knowing which voices deserve weight in your life. Not everyone has earned the right to shape your self-image. You can't grow if you think every negative word is an enemy and every positive word is a crown. Both can be dangerous if you don't know the source. The truth is, some people will never see you clearly. They'll see a version of you that exists in their story, not yours. And if you spend your life trying to edit yourself to fit every version they have, you'll never actually live your own. Here's the freedom in this. Once you see the difference between fact and opinion, you stop chasing approval. You stop bending to fit. You stop letting one person's bad day, bad mood, or bad judgment tell you who you are. You hear everything but you choose what to keep. You decide what's worth your energy. You take what builds you and drop the rest like dead weight. And that's when you become untouchable. Because the world doesn't get quieter, you just stop letting it get inside you. You realize their opinion isn't a mirror, it's just a shadow. And shadows can't hurt you unless you start believing they're real. When you don't have an inner standard, you become a puppet for everyone else's approval. You wake up every day waiting for the world to tell you how you're doing. If you're enough. If you're on the right track. One compliment, and you're flying. One criticism and you're sinking. That's no way to live. Because if you're measuring yourself by shifting opinions, you'll never find steady ground. What you need is a personal, unshakable standard. One that's built from your values, your principles, and your definition of success. An inner standard is like your own internal scoreboard. It doesn't change when the crowd cheers. It doesn't change when the crowd boos. It's yours. You set it, you measure yourself against it, and you live by it. And the beauty is, once you have it, you stop living for the performance. You stop dancing for likes, approval, and permission. You already know where you stand. Here's the truth most people don't want to admit. When you don't set your own standard, someone else will set it for you. And usually their standard has nothing to do with your growth or your happiness. It's about their comfort. They want you to live in a way that fits their story, their limits, their expectations. If you let them, they'll shrink you to fit their box. Your inner standard is the opposite of that. It's expansive. It gives you room to grow without needing anyone to clap for you. It's about asking yourself, am I being the kind of person I respect? Am I living in line with my values? Am I proud of my effort today? When the answer is yes, you're winning, even if nobody else notices. This doesn't mean you ignore feedback or shut yourself off from the world. It means you filter it through your standard. Someone says you're failing, check your standard. Are you actually slipping, or are you just not living the way they think you should? Someone says you're amazing, that's great, but you don't let it blind you. You go back to your standard and ask, did I meet it? Praise feels good, but it doesn't define you. Criticism stings, but it doesn't destroy you. You've got your own sense. And here's where the power comes in. When you live by your inner standard, you can walk away from situations, people, and opportunities that don't align with it, without feeling guilt. You stop chasing what's popular and start chasing what's right for you. You say no without over-explaining. You take the high road without expecting applause. You do the right thing because it's the right thing, not because someone is watching. Most people are terrified of that kind of self-ownership, because it means you can't hide behind excuses anymore. You can't say I didn't know, or they made me, or no one told me. When you set your standard, you're accountable to yourself every day, and that's why it works. Because you care more about disappointing yourself than you do about disappointing strangers. It's easy to get pulled off track without it. One bad review, one rejection, one moment of being misunderstood, and you start to doubt everything. But when your worth is built on your own measurement, you bend but you don't break. You might take a hit, but you don't lose your direction. The world will always have its scoreboard. Money, likes, titles, appearances. If you live by that, you'll keep running in circles, trying to catch a finish line that moves every time you get close. But when you have an inner standard, you've already crossed your own finish line every time you act with integrity, effort, and purpose. And here's the thing. No one can take that from you. They can question it, they can mock it, they can misunderstand it, but they can't touch it. Because it's not theirs, it's yours. And when you live by it, you sleep better, walk taller, and move through life with a quiet strength that no applause or insult can shake. That's the difference between living like a leaf in the wind and living like a tree with deep roots. One gets tossed around, the other stands no matter the storm. The quickest way to lose your peace is to react in the heat of the moment. The quickest way to keep it is to pause. That pause is power. Most people don't realize it because they're addicted to the rush of immediate reaction. Someone throws a jab, they throw one back. Someone raises their voice, they match it. Someone sends a passive-aggressive text, they fire off one of their own. It feels good for a second, but it costs you long-term control. Every instant reaction is a withdrawal from your emotional bank account, and most people are running on empty. When you refuse to react instantly, you take back the driver's seat. You stop letting other people's energy dictate yours. That doesn't mean you're ignoring the problem. It means you're deciding how and when you deal with it. You're not being passive, you're being strategic. Because here's the truth. People will say and do things specifically to get a reaction out of you. They want to pull you into their chaos. If you take the bait, you're playing their game. And in their game, you're always one move behind. The pause lets you flip that script. It gives you space to breathe, think, and respond in a way that actually serves you. In that gap between what happens and what you do next, you get to ask the right questions.
Is this worth my energy? Is this even about me? What outcome do I actually want here? Those questions are impossible to ask when you're busy swinging back. Pausing isn't weakness, it's discipline. It's choosing not to let someone else's bad moment turn into your bad day. It's understanding that you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Sometimes the best move is no move. At least not right away. Because when emotions are high, logic is low. And when logic is low, you make decisions you have to clean up later. Think about the times you've reacted in anger or frustration. How often did it actually solve the problem? More often it just added fuel to it. You ended up saying something you didn't mean, escalating the tension or handing the other person proof that they could get under your skin. When you pause, you deny them that proof. You keep your dignity intact. And here's the thing people notice. When they can't get a rise out of you, it unsettles them. They have to face the fact that they can't control you. And that changes the dynamic entirely. You go from being predictable to being a wild card. And that unpredictability is power. Because now they can't plan their next move around your reaction. They have to adjust to you. The pause also protects your relationships. Not every disagreement needs to be handled like a battle. Sometimes you just need a moment to cool off so you can speak from clarity instead of ego. That's how you avoid saying things that can't be unsaid. That's how you keep small problems from turning into lasting damage. It's not always easy. The urge to defend yourself, to prove a point, to get the last word, it's strong, but that urge is a trap. And every time you bite, you're teaching people that they can control you. When you pause instead, you're teaching them the opposite, that you choose your moments, you choose your battles, and you choose your words. This isn't about bottling up your emotions. It's about mastering them so they serve you instead of sabotage you. If something matters enough to address, you'll do it, but on your terms, and if it doesn't, you'll let it slide without it living rent-free in your head. That's the freedom the pause gives you. The world is full of noise, conflict, and provocation. You can't control that, but you can control your space between stimulus and response. That space is where your power lives. The more you protect it, the more untouchable you become. You stop being a puppet to every trigger, and you start being the one holding the strings. And that's how you walk through the fire without letting it burn you. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone should get to know your thoughts, your plans, your energy, or your emotion. But most people live like their time and presence are free refills. You keep pouring into anyone who asks, and then wonder why you feel drained, unappreciated, and resentful. The truth is, your circle determines your peace. Who you allow close will either protect it or poison. You can't live unbothered if you keep surrounding yourself with people who thrive on drama. You can't expect to feel secure if you're constantly around people who question your worth or take advantage of your kindness. Every relationship is either a deposit or a withdrawal in your emotional bank account. Some people leave you feeling lighter, stronger, and more grounded. Others leave you tired, second-guessing yourself, and carrying their baggage along with your own. Curating your circle doesn't mean you hate people. It means you value yourself enough to protect your mental and emotional space. It means you understand that not every friend is a lifetime friend. Not every family member gets a front row seat, and not every coworker should know your personal business. Boundaries are not walls, they are gates, and you control the key. The mistake people make is thinking they have to explain or justify every boundary. You don't. If someone drains you, you don't need a 10-minute speech on why you're taking space. You take the space because you need it, period. If someone is toxic, you don't need to convince them of it. You just stop letting them close enough to affect you. And here's the shift that changes everything. You start measuring relationships, not by how long you've known someone, but by how they treat you and how you feel when you're around them. Some people you've known for years won't clap for you when you win. Some people you've just met will cheer for you louder than anyone. Time is not the qualification, respect, trust, and mutual care are. When you curate your circle, you start to see how much easier it is to stay calm and unbothered. You have fewer fires to put out because you're not standing in rooms full of matches. You have fewer arguments because you're not spending your days defending yourself to people who've already decided not to understand you. You're not fighting for scraps of loyalty because you've chosen people who give it freely. Some people won't like this version of you. They'll call you cold, they'll call you selfish, but what they're really saying is they miss the version of you that gave, without limits, that tolerated the disrespect, that let them unload on you without consequences. That version of you is gone, and that's a good thing. The freedom in curating your circle is this. You stop trying to be everything to everyone. You stop scattering your energy across people who wouldn't do the same for you. And you start pouring deeper into the ones who actually match your effort. Quality over quantity isn't just about possessions. It's about people. 10 shallow connections won't build you like 2 deep, loyal ones will. This doesn't mean you live suspicious of everyone. It means you become intentional. You pay attention to patterns, not just words. You notice if someone only shows up when they need something. You notice if someone can't celebrate you without turning it into competition. You notice if someone's jokes always seem to chip away at your confidence. And when you notice, you make changes. You don't wait for them to magically treat you better. You create the environment where only the right kind of people get close enough to matter. In the end, who you keep close shapes how you feel, how you think, and how you move through life. If you want to live unbothered, start by protecting the front gate. Because once you control who gets in, you control what gets in. And when your circle is solid, the outside noise can't touch you. You're surrounded by people who protect your peace instead of poking at it. And that's when you stop just surviving the world and start moving through it with your head high, your energy strong, and your boundaries unshakable. At the end of the day, this isn't about pretending the world can't touch you. It's about building yourself so solid on the inside that nothing can break you from the outside. It's about owning your emotions so no one else can drive them. It's about knowing the difference between truth and noise, holding yourself to a standard that no one else gets. To rewrite, choosing your battles with precision, and guarding your circle like your peace depends on it. Because it does. You will be tested. You will be poked, pushed, and tempted to break your own rules. But the moment you decide you will not hand over the keys to your peace, you become a different kind of dangerous. Not because you fight harder, but because you refuse to fight for what's not worth your energy. You start walking into rooms with a calm that can't be faked and a strength that can't be shaken. People will still talk, they'll still misunderstand, they'll still try to pull you into their storms, but you'll stand there grounded, knowing their chaos is not your home. And that's when you realize the secret to never letting anyone bother you isn't in controlling them, it's in mastering you. And once you have that, they can't take it, they can't touch it, and they can't touch you.